Like always, we'll keep it interactive. I'll try to monitor the Q&A, try to save some time at the end, and we will keep things to 30 minutes so that everyone can get what they need and then go back about their day taking actions. And I think with that, I'm going to do a quick final check on. Cool. Why don't we go ahead and get started? So maybe just, yeah, Jack, for those that don't know you, quick intro so for context.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jack McGlinchey, CEO and co-founder here at Sonar. Yeah, real excited to dive into this topic today. It's something we're very passionate about here.
Cool. Cool. So real quick for those that don't know Sonar. For those that don't know Arovy, Arovy, formerly Sonar, went through a rebrand here in May. We've been helping companies reduce risk on Salesforce since 2019. Both operational and security controls. We're backed by Salesforce, have a lot of customers, as you can see here, some of the largest companies, companies using Salesforce in the most innovative ways, trust us to help them manage their environment and ensure that they've got the appropriate security controls to do so. Again, it's not Sonar software. So Sonar used to be, so check us out, arovy.com. And Jack and I are obviously on LinkedIn should you have any follow-up questions and want to get in touch with us. Cool. So what's been happening? If you're here, you've at least seen some communication from us around things that are happening. Real quick context. So I guess it was back in March that Salesforce first released a blog around some vulnerabilities related to connected apps and with some recommendations that customers of theirs should take to mitigate these vulnerabilities to ensure that they're kind of protecting their environment and leveraging best practices. From there, I think it was around the June timeframe when UNC6040 was formally kind of publicly came about, and a whole slew of customers, unfortunately, some of the biggest brands in the world were affected by this vulnerability around connected apps, leveraging some of the, I guess, the risk surface that was described in the March blog that Salesforce had put out. That was June. We roll back. And why we're here today, August 13th, is just over the last couple of weeks. While there's been a lot of communication and trying to help organizations, a number of folks, Salesforce including, trying to help organizations make sure they're implementing all the best practices. Just over the last couple of weeks, there's been some additional, I guess, announcements around, unfortunately, around some additional breaches that have been affected by these similar control surfaces, most recently Chanel, Google, Cisco, some of the largest companies in the world. And so I guess why we're here is to make sure, this is happening to the largest companies in the world, companies that have access to the most sophisticated resources, they have access to the Salesforce security teams, and bad actors are taking advantage of these capabilities. What we know is also that hackers are lazy, and so they're going to continue to follow this, this common denominator of an attack surface until the market as a whole, until customers lock it down. And so you should lock it down. And maybe Jack, maybe if you could go a little bit more on kind of what the kind of hackers are actually doing, how are they penetrating these companies that have been affected?
Yeah, so I can't share who I spoke with, but I've spoken to some of the affected teams, and basically what these hackers are doing is they are pretending to be either IT or Salesforce themselves. They are calling as many people as they can at these companies and using some pretty convincing approaches. They're convincing people to install what looks to be a legitimate app, something like Data Loader. People are installing the application thinking that IT or Salesforce is actually asking them to do this, whether it be like fixing their org or something along those lines. And then once they have access via that connected app, they are then able to extract as much data as possible. We've learned they're, not just extracting it all at once. Sometimes they're sitting on the connection for months at a time while they sell it before they actually go in and exfiltrate the data. But from what we've been told, it's pretty sophisticated beyond just you know, the spam calls that you're getting regularly, or the maybe the vishing calls that you're expecting from maybe what your grandparents get. But yeah, it seems pretty sophisticated, and like you said, it's affecting the biggest companies in the world. So they know what they're doing, and based on what's been posted, the data is really valuable. So um, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe some adult also for those that I know we've got a cross section of I guess titles and kind of functional roles. Can you maybe share a little bit of how Connected App works in Salesforce natively? Like what is the process? How do they connect in? Like maybe just out of the native Salesforce capabilities, what does that actually mean? And how does it work without any extended security controls?
Yeah, so Salesforce is a CRM. It holds all of your customer data. But the really powerful part of Salesforce is actually the platform that they built, and probably the reason why they're the number one CRM on the planet. But what they allowed developers and other companies to do, including ourselves, is um, they built a platform that allows these third-party applications to connect to their APIs, and then allows them to interact with these APIs so that customers can find more value out of their CRM. So whether it be like a support hub in order to manage customer tickets, or whether it be additional sales tooling for sales reps to make cold calls, there's a ton of different applications that we see connected to Salesforce. On average, we see 57 plus connected to our customers' Salesforce. But all it takes is a couple of clicks, get a nice Salesforce screen that says authorize app. And then, if you don't have any controls in place, the application basically has full access to the data that the authorized user has access to. And from there, you can programmatically access all the data in the CRM. So just a couple of clicks. Again, it's really easy. It's really nice. It makes connecting these third-party applications pretty seamless so that you can extract a lot of value out of your CRM. But it also is a pretty obvious, vulnerability if it's not uh, controlled the right way.
Super helpful. Let me just do a quick check to see if we've got any. Why don't we come back to the questions and yeah, we'll keep it. We'll save those to the end, or yeah, we'll come back to that. So yeah, and maybe just given the kind of the different roles and the different understanding of how Salesforce works and kind of what capabilities it provides, we want to talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that at the end of the day, we want the market customers and anyone uses Arovy to reduce risk, right? To not be affected by these things. That's the worst outcome for Salesforce, for the ecosystem, for the world more broadly. And generally there are a couple of different groups. There's the folks that know Salesforce really well, and own the platform within business systems, and then you have the security leaders and maybe broadly within governance. And maybe just can you talk a little bit about some, based on the conversations that we're having, some of the things that are concerning more broadly and kind of underpin why maybe some of these attacks are continuing to be successful?
Yeah, so I mean, there are two key groups here that are responsible for this, and I'm really empathetic towards the situation because both are dealing with some interesting challenges. So the first is the Salesforce teams that we work with. Those are the teams that use our software every day in order to reduce risk. But a lot of these teams are understaffed. They are drowning in work, and Salesforce is really complex, and it makes doing their job really hard. And to stack more on top of that, they don't really understand information security. They are responsible for configuring Salesforce, which is, I mean, its own profession, right? But I would say probably like the concerning reaction I'm hearing from a lot of teams is that like all these companies hire idiots who in their right mind would install an application in production from a voice call from an unknown caller you'll see this Reddit post here that we read all the Salesforce posts or the Salesforce subreddit posts just to keep up with things. But it's just concerning that people think that it's because they hire fools. And I know these teams, they're intelligent people. They're responsible for some really technical things, but they're not fools. Did they make a mistake? Almost certainly. Did they not follow protocol? Definitely. But based on how many companies are being impacted, the brands that we're seeing impacted, like Google doesn't hire fools. So to see people like, Google, Cisco, Chanel, Pandora, all these name brands get impacted by this, I think I think concerning is the right word, that that shouldn't be the reaction. I think people have moments of weakness. That's why information security exists, is to help protect people from those moments of weakness so that these kinds of incidents don't happen. Um, on the other hand, equally concerning is information security seems to um, they don't really understand Salesforce, and I think also equally empathetic there. They have a huge surface area that they're responsible for managing. They're understaffed as well. They're being asked to protect an ecosystem of software that their company has adopted that's only getting bigger every day. And understanding the nuances of Salesforce is a really tall order. There's a lot of intricacies. There's a lot of, if you've ever been in the back end of Salesforce under setup, like there's a lot there to wrap your head around from an ops standpoint, let alone from a security standpoint. And so, um, but the basically they're not helping the Salesforce teams understand what they should be doing. So the Salesforce teams think that they understand, or maybe they have a surface level understanding of what's going on, but they're writing it off because only fools would allow this to happen. And then information security isn't really giving them the resources or the guidance or really direction on what they should be doing. So you can see this post down below where a director of cybersecurity let them know that this was happening, but didn't really give them instructions on what to do. So I think this is a shared responsibility. I know Salesforce loves to use that as a model between them and their customer, but I think internally, Salesforce teams and information security teams um, should really rethink the approach here, and that it's not just fools making mistakes. There's a shared responsibility here for teams to take this seriously. Um, the Shiny Hackers groups has they publicly come out onto some of these hacking forums and said that these attacks are going to continue. They're only going to get worse, and you can either take it seriously, do something about it, so you don't have to deal with a headache later. If um, uh, if this happens to you, or you can ignore it and pretend that your team is perfect and that there aren't moments of weakness. So um, I would say those are the two main concerning reactions that we've seen, and we think there's an opportunity here for both teams to really come to work together to really make sure that they've got a really strong posture.
100%. And
So yeah, that's my soapbox for the day. I promise I
yeah,
won't.
no, and I think and I know we have a couple we got a couple questions that did come in. I'd say the most informed, well-educated, intelligent people. I had a former CEO drive to CVS to get a card in preparation for a meeting for someone that was 4,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Just the wrong time, right? And you're the halftime of a soccer game. I mean, it just takes one moment of weakness where you get the wrong call with the right message, and so um, Salesforce isn't the only one that's happened to. So let's talk about kind of what are the solutions like for the folks on the line that what are the steps that they should take tomorrow, whether or not you're using Arovy to help.
Yeah. So these are basic Salesforce native controls. You don't have to buy anything from us in order to do this. Some of these things are covered at a high level in Salesforce's blog. I'm gonna talk through a few of the things that you'll want to think about, and then uh, I'll mention this later, but we got a comprehensive guide coming soon because I think there's just a lot of information that's missing out there. So the first thing you should do is go into the back end of setup. There is a connected OAuth usage page. Um, you would be floored at the number of teams that I talked to that haven't looked at this page in months. What you're going to do is you're going to see a list of apps that are connected to Salesforce. So at the beginning, when I mentioned that there was a list of, or it was really easy to connect apps. Well, this is where they all live. You'll be able to see exactly who connected them, but you really should go through and review and audit them. Um, if you don't recognize the application and this is your Salesforce to manage, this should really be something that you dig into. Information security teams, you should really be pushing your teams to go to this part of the application and review this. They're really busy. They're drowning in tickets. They probably need reminders to go in and do this. But it should be a regular part of your process to go in and review these applications. There's a button there that says block. If you don't recognize it, and there's a button there that says install. I'll talk about why installing it is important. Um, Salesforce is 30 years old at this point. I don't know why there's a distinction between block and install, and then also this weird third state where you're not installed but you have access. But either way, I would recommend you go through and do that because you're going to be surprised. We talk to customers about this all the time. They have no idea this random sales manager installed this application that allows them to extract as much data as they want into a Google Sheet application, but they're there, I promise. Once you do this, you'll have the ability to actually edit the connected app policies. So you can do things like expire the token automatically if it hasn't been used in 90 days. So, if you do forget to go review the connected app, at least it automatically revokes the access so that you don't have just like this graveyard of uh, applications connected that are potential risks. Um, yeah, and then block the ones you don't. What you're going to find is that you're going to get support tickets from your team asking why you blocked this app, at which point you'll be able to have a conversation with them about like, what is this app? What does it do? Does this need to go through a security process, go through some sort of review? Just because it's free or just because you trust your team doesn't mean you shouldn't double check each other's work. Um, so that's probably the big first one, something you can do today. Again, you don't have to buy anything from us to do this. I would highly recommend going in and looking at this. Um,
Yeah. Hey, Jack, do you want to touch a little bit about the actually, why don't we take this question because I know it's been out there, and then we'll come back to the next topic. You ready for it, Jack?
yeah, go ahead.
I set some of my connected app permitted users. There's a leaf blower, my leaf blower. So I guess it didn't work today. They came early. I set some of my connected app permitted users to admin approved users as pre-authorized. Then I couldn't access the connected app. What do I need to do to authorize specific users to use to user connected apps?
Um, that is a great question. So that is one of the policies that you can set up when you install the application. So I'll go into this when we talk about the next permission, but um, once you install the application, if you enable this permission, you have to go into uh, the permission set or the profile and actually give the connected app permission and then assign it to the user itself. So if you bought anything from Salesforce that required like license permission sets, it's a very similar process, but you have to do this with the connected apps as well. So basically by pre-assigning this, if they then go through an OAuth with the application, they're automatically approved. You don't have to handle it later. Um, but basically you're able to manage the profiles through those permissions. Um, it's kind of heavy-handed, but it's something that's required. And then just as a note, if you do select admin approved users or pre-authorized, um, anyone that's using the app loses access. Just something to be aware of, they will have to re-authenticate after you've added the permission to that user specifically. So it's a way of really ratcheting down the user permissions. Um, and if you have any questions about that specifically, we'd be happy to help out with that. We've had to do it a handful of times, so I'm not sure if that answers it, but you'll find it under um, I would go through it live, but I don't have it pulled up. But there's a way to add permissions, the connected app permissions to a permission set or a profile. Then you have to assign it to the user, and then they'll have to re-authenticate in order to get access to the app.
Yeah, and Jack, can you maybe touch a little bit on with just these capabilities as a double click into that question from a change management standpoint when you do this? I know maybe a couple customers or maybe pick a customer, like what was their level of effort to support this process and kind of time and energy and kind of what should folks plan for if you go down with this approach natively?
Yeah, well, this leads into the next bullet point, and I'll cover it. So, There is a permission called API access controls. This permission currently is hidden by default. You have to reach out to Salesforce support, request it be turned on. They'll enable it for you. Um, this will, by default, block connected applications that users try and OAuth with. Um, Very, very secure, but there's a lot of work involved. And to the question that was just asked, this is a key part of it. Um, so when you go in and block these connected apps, the way that you grant access is you're able to then manage at a profile or permission set level, and then obviously the user level who has access to these applications. So it's really heavy-handed. It requires a lot of work, but as I mentioned in the slide here, it's really valuable. Um, Now the challenge is, right, you're gonna have to have a very strong change management policy around who gets access to what applications. We've seen a lot of customers successfully implement this kind of at the profile level. Sales managers get access to these applications, sales development reps might get access to these applications, customer support gets access to these applications. And so as people get assigned profiles and permission sets default, they inherit access through those profiles and permission sets without having to go in and manage them one by one necessarily, but you do need to change management policies. So how are you approving new applications? Who gets access to them? When new users are onboarded, how do you get access to those? All of those things are a key part of this. The one thing I will tell you is if you do reach out to support and ask for this, and then you go enable it, it will break everything. Every application that hasn't been properly configured, installed, approved, it will revoke all of the OAuth tokens and everyone will have to re-authenticate. We've heard stories about people that had legacy applications connected that were homegrown. The developer who made it left 2 years ago. They don't know how to re-enable it. So just something to be mindful of. It's a lot of work. We're actually working on a really comprehensive guide for this specifically because, as I mentioned, I've seen teams of like five spend a week plus working on this in order to get things working. Again, it's one of the most secure settings that Salesforce offers. Um, it is very, when I say destructive, I mean it from like a permission standpoint. It can break a lot of things. So definitely plan ahead for this one, but it is one of the best ways to actually lock things down. Um, and again, Brian, to your question, like part of that work ahead of time is really having a really strong change management process in order to understand like the implications of all of these changes, how they're going to work, how do we onboard new employees, how do we handle promotions, how do we handle new applications, like all of those things need to be considered because um, nothing will work unless that's all set up ahead of time.
Yep. Yeah. And if you do enable this, it will cause a lot of things to break and expect tickets and
Yes.
weekend work and just expect to have a staff ready to prepare to deal with the fallout. Because even
Ye
with the right upfront, there's only so much that you can do discover upfront.
Yep. Half of the stuff in here, you can't test in a staging or a sandbox environment. Like for example, there's a checkbox as part of this where you need to allow Visual Force pages to make external IP requests. Um, some of the Visual Force pages come from managed packages, which means the code is obfuscated, which means you can't tell that it's making an API request. And you won't find that out until you deploy it, and then people report that your Visual Force page is broken because it can't make external requests. So like just go ahead and plan for some sort of downtime if you do decide to enable this control because things will break. You will field tickets. So just something to be mindful of because it is very heavy-handed.
Cool. So
And
what?
then just go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm just we've got about 5 minutes in the original time. Why don't yeah? Should we? You want to touch on that? Everyone stayed, so I guess if you can go over, let's go over and make sure we get the content.
Yeah, yep, I'll go through the last few points. So on the last slide, there are two small ones. One is enable MFA. Again, just another layer of security. Um, Again, this is gonna there's a whole change management process to that as well because you're gonna have to train people on how to use MFA. And then setting login IP ranges and allow list specific IPs. Um, if you have a VPN, this is a great time to think about how the VPN ties into it. If you've got a remote workforce and you don't have a VPN, this isn't really relevant for you because you can't allow list every employee's IP address, but it's something to consider because those are just extra layers of security that Salesforce offers natively. Okay, so what are we missing? First, the admin is still a single point of failure. You can implement all of the things that Salesforce recommends, all of those out of the box things. You can have a VPN, you can set up allow listed IPs, you can do all of these different things. But at the end of the day, the admin is still a single point of failure. I can't say who, but one of the names on the first slides that we mentioned with one of the connected app um, hacks actually was an admin. And again, a lot of people are going to say, oh, my admin's smarter than them. This will never happen to me. And I guarantee you that team said the same thing. So just something to be aware of that an admin can bypass all of these settings. There is a permission called use any API client that people can also use, and it bypasses a lot of these configurations. So again, there's just a lot of the admin at the end of the day can still be a single point of failure if you don't um, if you're not careful. And then finally, once an app is connected and approved, you are not home free. It still has its own risks. So a few things to be mindful of. Um, Overprivileged users and permission drift can both contribute to additional risks. So if users have view all data when they shouldn't, or if you don't properly manage all the different permission sets that you have, and you're just assigning everything to everyone. If you don't have again, a good change management policy to audit those and go through and monitoring who should have access to that and following like a least privilege access model, you're gonna expose data to applications that it shouldn't have access to data. Second, and again, admittedly less risky, but something to just for the sake of comprehensiveness, if third-party apps are ever compromised and those applications aren't locked down appropriately, you can have your data exposed if they're hacked. So if you've got a marketing automation tool hooked up to your Salesforce, and for some reason that third party on that party is hacked, they get access to your tokens, they can exfiltrate all of your data as well, and that'll be a really bad day. And then finally, the last piece here that I just don't think people call out enough is that there is ops overhead to this. When ops teams are busy, they will tend to do things that are easier. They'll bypass process for urgent requests because the CRO said that they needed it now. They will do things like using really broad permissions, like I mentioned, the use any API client. Again, this is more of a process thing than anything else, but just something to be mindful of that once an app is connected and approved, you're not entirely safe. So definitely something to be mindful of that, these are not things that Salesforce natively solves for out of the box.
Super helpful. So I think yeah, we have oh, one more slide. I know we're running over. Why don't we do one more slide and then we'll just see if there's any questions that come up that I don't think that you've covered.
Yeah. So first, I'm a huge advocate for event monitoring. It's an add-on that Salesforce offers. Um, I'll just tell you, I know it's expensive, but if your business is considering whether or not they should be investing in this, I think you should definitely take a look at event monitoring. It's a ton of additional functionality. Again, there's a lot of great people at Salesforce that work on this product that deeply care about security. And if your business, falls in under the bucket of what some of the logos that we saw earlier, hackers are probably, eyeing you, and you should really consider it. Um, Second, obviously, this is something we're deeply passionate about here. It's a problem that we really care about. Um, while the out-of-the-box tools that Salesforce offers are great, they're a great start. Things like continuous monitoring, ways to reduce ops overhead, auditing permission drift, and then also ensuring process adherence, so that we can help reduce single point of failures with admins is something that we do offer. As you're going through this process, we do offer a free assessment. So some of the things that we mentioned a couple slides ago, just some of the basics, we can help you prepare for those. And then if you're, ready to take a look at a more sophisticated approach so that you really have more peace of mind and obviously a stronger security posture, we'd love to help out. And then again, our background started in ops, so we have a ton of empathy and a ton of functionality for ops teams to just really make their job easier. Um, Implementing security controls is really hard. It can also be time consuming when you're doing it right, and we want to make it as easy and as fast as possible so that ops teams aren't, just dealing with security tickets. They're actually able to build productive things for the business as well. So, like I mentioned, that's kind of our spiel, but it is something that we're really passionate about here.
Yeah, ultimately we want you to reduce risk. And if
Yeah,
we can help with either this, some of the tips that Jack shared here, or some of the capabilities we offer that automate these tips and provide greater observability so that you can ensure that things are done in a way that you expected, obviously we'd love to help in either fashion. I'm just gonna do a quick scan on the questions. I know we're over just a couple of minutes.
Brian, while you do that, I will note if you go to arovy.com, there's a button there for a free assessment. We will go through all of this with you in depth if it's something you're interested in, and it's something we offer at no charge. Just something like I said, we care deeply about this problem space. So, if you're interested in getting your arms wrapped around it, if you're in information security trying to understand Salesforce, we're happy to play that part. Or if you're an ops team trying to learn more about security, we can help there as well.
Great. So yeah, no new questions came in. So I think we've covered everything. Jack, thanks for the time sharing your expertise. Obviously for the audience, hopefully you took away a couple of nuggets, more than you had coming in. And we are certainly want to be a resource in any capacity that we can. So check us out at arovy.com, follow us on LinkedIn, and let us know if we can help, and we'll bring the right resources to bear.
Great. Thanks, everyone.